Hello, we are back again into the world, 14th century England, the world which Geoffrey Chaucer has created for us. Chaucer delighted in the pilgrims that were towards Canterbury, and we delight in what Chaucer has presented for us. The main purpose of Chaucer was to introduce to us the church where corruption had entered. And the first pilgrim from the church was the nun, with her frivolity, her courtly manners, her stylish manners, and her letter A, which hung in the coral bead that she carried about her arm, and which was for Amor Vens Omne, love conquers all. And the second character was the monk, the manly man who was an outrider and who loved venery. And this, all he did with all the horses that he had, dainty horses in his stable, and with the greyhounds that he went around chasing hares, hunting them, and having a fat swan for a roasted swan for his food. Chaucer wants to take into consideration the second one from the orders, and this is the friar. A friar there was, a wanton and a merry. So, friar, it is very customary for Chaucer to give the adjectives that define his characters in the very first line, and this friar is wanton, avara. He is, and a merry man. Why? Because his task is to go around and collect taxes which one has to pay to the church, that the ultimate seat of justice can be maintained. So each one owes a due to the church, and this friar collects that. He is a limiter. Limiter is the one who is authorized to limit the tax that one has to pay. A full solemn man. Again, you can see the humor of Chaucer. He juxtaposes the two opposite words, the wantonness with the solemnity. And this man is wanton as well as he is solemn. In all the orders four is none that can so much of dalliance and fair language. So among the four orders of the church, there was no one who could exercise so much of dalliance. Dalliance is persuasion. So how did he win the silver and the gold from the people around? Through his dalliance, his persuasiveness and a fair language. He had made full many a marriage of young women at his own cost. Now the worth of this man lies in the fact that though he is a limiter, but he solemnizes the marriages of young women at his own cost. Let you just give a note to it. Why should he be doing it? Unto his order, he was a noble post. And why did he do it? Because his was a noble post. He had to collect the tax, but he also had to see that everything was done properly. So, because he was a noble post, and this was a sign of nobility, that he got the poor girl's marriage solemnized. Full well beloved and familiar was he with franklins over all in his country. Franklins are rich farmers, landlord farmers. So he was very much loved by, and he was very familiar with the Franklins, the rich land owning farmers. Of course, the, the, the slice of amount that would come as tax would be the largest from the Franklins. So he knew the Franklins all over his country, and also with worthy women of the town. So not only the men, but he also had friendship with worthy women. Now we have seen Chaucer is using the word worthy largely to suggest the unworthiness, for he had the power of confession. So why did he come to have friendship with the Franklins and with the worthy women? Because he had the power of confession. Now it is a system in the churches that a limiter is also given the duty to sit in a confession outside, sit in such a position that he hears the confessions of the people. But it is mandatory for the churchman not to have a look at the face of the person who is making the confession, because it is against the principles. So he used to listen to the confessions, but he always kept an eye on who was the person making confession, and therefore he should have been then collecting taxes from them, or maybe we all know he should be blackmailing them. As he said himself, more than a curate, for of his order he was licentiate. So he said himself that he is now larger than a curate, the highest order. He was bigger than a pope, because he was licentiate to listen to the confession. Full sweetly heard he confession, and pleasant was his absolution. So the ablution, the process of cleansing away the sin and the guilt, he only gave after listening to the confession. He was an easy man to give penance, whereas he wished to have a good pittance. So he was a man who would give easy penance, because he said that he wanted to be a pitiable, he wanted to be piteous in his nature. He wanted to give easy penance. And what was the easy penance? Let us see. For unto a poor order for to give is sign that the man is well shreve. Unto means towards a poor order. When he was going to collect the penance, the money for the penance, he at once fell into a poor order. And he told his people that if you give to the poor people, YIVA is give. If you give to the poor people, then giving means being charitable to the poor people is sign that the man is well shreve. Shreve is clean. So you become clean. Your sins are washed away if you pay to the poor people. So this is the argument. I told you, we have read that he had the best dalliance and the sweetest tongue. So this is what he used to do. He knew every tact to extract money from the people, and this was the first one, that he told his people an ablution, that they can be rid of their sins by giving money to the poor order. Because if he gave, he durst make a want, he wished that the man was repentant. So he said that it was a want. A want means sufficient. It was sufficient that if the man gave, is a sign enough that he was repentant. For many a man so hard is of his heart, he may not weep, although him sore smart. So this is the argument which he gives. While he was extracting money from the people, he said that, why do I do it? Why do I ask for money? I asked for money because for means because there are so many men who are so hard in their heart that they may not weep. It is difficult for men to weep, although they are so, it is sorely smarting. Smarting is hurting. Sore is badly. So even if there is tremendous much of pain in their heart, they may not weep. And we all know that it is not towardly for a man to weep. Even if he is feeling the pangs of having sinned, he might not be able to do it. Therefore, only because men cannot weep even when they are feeling repentant, therefore, instead of weeping and prayers, men must give silver to the poor friars. The second argument which he gives is, so if you cannot weep and if you cannot pray, men must give silver. So men must part with their money if they are wanting to get rid of their sins, if they want pittance. These two things are suggestive of his logicizing his wrongs. He knows how to do it. He has got a fair language. So he wins the people by any ways. He does it by hook or by crook. So first he says that if you give it, this is the sign enough that you have been rid, because money is bad, and if you give it away, you will be rid of the trouble. And furthermore, some people may not weep, so instead of weeping and prayers, they must give silver to the poor friars. His tippet was all fast full of knives and pins for to give fair wives. So the dress that he was wearing, Chaucer already said that he is also going to speak about the dress that these people came in. So he said that is tippet. Tippet is a long cloak. The long cloak that this man was wearing was fast full of knives. It was fully stuffed with knives and pins. Why? So that he gifted them to the fair wives. So whenever he took money from them, in return, he gifted a few things. I wonder if a churchman would give in return for taking. So this man is much into the business. When he takes, he gives. And when he has given, he will surely take something back in return. And certainly he had a merry note. Well could he sing and play on a rote. So this man is a fiddler also. He plays upon his rote and he's got a merry note. He is all the time happy. Why is he happy? Either his pocket is full of money or it is full of knives and pins. So when he gifted them to the wives, he made himself speak all that in a merry note. Of yeddings he bore outwardly the praise. Now what are yeddings? Yeddings are songs sung in order to extract money. Just as you must have heard that in the trains, the ones who beg, who come begging, they always come begging in the name of God. तू एक पैसा देगा वो 10 लाख देगा. So these are the songs, which are sung, that if you give one, you will be getting a million from God. So he had a outwardly praise. He was popularly known for the songs which are classed as yeddings. His neck white was as flower de lilies. So, and because he had sung so many songs that he was flushed of the blood in his throat and his neck appeared white as a flower of lily. But this shouldn't be mistaken that he is a gentleman. There too, he strong was as a champion. He knew the taverns well in every town. So he was a man of a very strong build and he knew the taverns. Taverns are roadside inns in which he would visit and see the people committing crimes, and then he would extract money out of them. So, if he is the visitor of taverns, why should he visit them? He is always in the lookout for money. And every hostler and tapestrer better than a lazar or a beggar. So he knew all the hostlers, the ones who gave shelter to the people, to the travelers. He knew them all, and tapesters. Tapesters are the people who provide curtains. So why would a person have curtains in their homes? To hide something which should not be visible to the others. So he had his friendship with every hostler and every tapestrer instead of having friendship with lepers and beggars. For unto such a worthy man as he accorded not. Why did he not have friendship with the poor people? Because unto such a worthy man as he. It was not nice. Accorded. Accorded is appropriate. Is not appropriated. इतना बड़ा आदमी छोटे लोगों के साथ दोस्ती करे, गलत बात है. As by his faculty to have with sick Lazar's acquaintance, it is not honest. It may not avaunt. So, by his faculty, because he was a limiter, he had to tax people. And because his faculty was to tax people, it was not proper. It was not proper to have acquaintance, to have acquaintance with poor people, because it is not honest. One thing, it is not honest. ज़बान दराजी तो उसके पास इतनी है, उसके पास वाक पाटुता इतनी ज़्यादा है कि वो बोल रहा है इट्स नॉट ऑनेस्ट. गरीब लोगों के साथ में अक्वेंटेंस रखने का क्या फ़ायदा है? अच्छी बात थोड़ी है, मैं उनसे पैसे ले ही नहीं सकता हूँ. इट्स नॉट ऑनेस्ट टू एक्सट्रैक्ट मनी फ्रॉम देम, and it may not avaunt. Avaunt is profitable. Even if he made acquaintance with the poor beggars, it wouldn't be profitable. What can he extract from one who is already begging? For to deal with no such parole, but all with rich and sellers of white ale. So he only had dealings not with such poor people, but he only had them it all with rich and sellers of white ale. And overall, there as profit should arise. So all his friendship was with the viewpoint that only profit should come out of his visit. Courteous he was and lowly of service. So his work was to extract money, and for that he maintained the system that he was courteous and very lowly of service. There was no man nowhere so virtuous. He was the best beggar in his house, and this marks it all. This ends it all. Chaucer pricks so violently upon his conscience, but that he does by first saying that there was nowhere such a virtuous man, because he was the best beggar in his house. And then, raising him to the high standard of virtuosity, he drops him down to bring him to the status of the best beggar. A very beautiful alliterative expression for this man who could beg and gave a certain firm for the grant. None of his brethren came there in his haunt. So he had firmly maintained that none of the other friars, his brethren means the other friars, came there in his haunt. Haunt is the area from which he collected the money. So he was also very stern. He didn't allow anyone to come to his area. For though a widow had not a show, so pleasant was he in Principio. In Principio is a song that he used to sing, the song that would excite charity in the heart of the persons. So even when there was a widow, WYDWE is a widow, even though a widow had not a show, not even the smallest shilling, so pleasant was he in his Principio, the song that he sung, yet would he have a farthing before he went. So even when he entered the house of a widow, he would not move out until he has extracted a farthing from her. Even though she might have persuaded that she had nothing, he would keep on singing because he had that quality of dalliance. He sang, and ultimately the woman, the poor widow, would only get rid of this man after she had parted with a farthing. And with all these tactics, his purchase was well better than his rent. How is this possible? Rent is the accumulated amount. The amount that he used to accumulate as tax from the people, with that, his own personal purchases were much better. So, is it possible for a man who earns 5,000 rupees a month buys a thing worth 15,000 that very same month? But no one could question him. He was very stern in his dealings. And rage he could, as it were, write a whelp. In love days, there could he much help. So, I would explain this term, love days. Love days are a particular time of the year in which those cases which couldn't be handled by the court and by the king, because they were tricky cases in which there was involvement of a sense of morality before imposing any penalty, then such cases were ultimately referred to the church. And it was believed that love of God would be extended upon the sinners. So these days were called love days, the days in which church assumed the authority of a court. So when his church became, when love days, when there were love days, so he could rage. Then he was out of his mind, out of his shape that was so, he was believed to be courteous, but now he would be violent and he would rage like a whelp. Whelping is the sound which a puppy makes when things are not according to his desire or when he is tied to a chain. So the screams, which are screams of resistance. So he would scream that. In love days, there could he much help. For there was not like, he was not like a cloisterer with a threadbare cope, as is a poor scholar, but he was like a master or a pope. So in those days, he was not like a cloisterer. Cloisterer is a poor friar living in a small church with a threadbare cope. Cope is a long cloak. Threadbare means worn out, like a poor scholar. He was not then scholarly, but he was like a master. So this man is very worldly wise. He makes the best of the situation. When he listens to the confession, he listens them such that he extracts money later. When he is singing in the church, he sings the yeddings, by which people would be obliged to make most offerings. When he moves into the house of a widow, then he sings in Principio, so that he extracts the last farthing from her. And when it is love days, then he becomes the master or a pope. Of double worsted was his semi-cope. Then he would become stylish and double worsted, a very exquisite kind of woolen. Double worsted is very fine woolen clothes he would wear. that rounded as a belly out of the press. So this would not fit him because he had a bulged tummy. Somewhat he lisped for his wantonness. So the very first word, that he was a wanton man, he also lisped. Lisping is a faulty speech when the tongue doesn't move freely. It seems to be tied to the lower portion of the mouth and there is no free movement of the tongue and people are unable to make proper utterances. So he lisped. This is also feigning it. He could sing it properly, but he lisped. He made himself appear like a child to make his English sweet upon his tongue. And in his harping, when that he had sung, his eyes twinkled in his head aright, as do the stars in a frosty night. It is very appropriate, to describe a man's eyes because they reveal the character much. Just as that monk who chased a hare and who ate a fat swan for his supper had the eyes, fiery red eyes, sunken deep in the hollows of the socket and flaming. So also this man's eyes are like stars in a frosty night. Twinkling eyes. Why are they twinkling? Because he is full of money, he is full of happiness. Whether in the days, ordinary days, he can extract money from anyone, and during the love days, of course, he's like a master, he's like a pope. This worthy limiter was called Herbert. Because there is so much of badness in this character, and all limiters should not take Chaucer to be their enemy, so Chaucer perforce names him. He individualizes him by giving him a name. Now, not every limiter, though all limiters had turned quite stray, but this one was the worst of them because Chaucer will pick the best of their kind. So he is the best beggar in the town, and limiters should not believe that they have been termed as beggars. So Chaucer, in an effort to save his skin, gives this limiter a name and says that his name is Herbert. Now, in this character that we have done today, we see a man who has got two authorities. The first authority is to collect taxes, and the second authority is to listen to the confessions. And this he should do dispassionately. But this man is so passionate, and his only interest is to be completely full, to be able to make purchases which are better than his rent. So, this character, we do not see him as suitable to the church, the establishment of religious gains. He is not suitable to it, and Chaucer takes every care to give every detailed description of his activities, how he cheats and how he persuades. Thank you.